Hi everyone, welcome along to today's video. This one concerns using hemp to make watertight pipe joints. What is hemp? It's this stuff here. Yeah, it looks a bit hairy. You can still get it. This stuff comes from way back in the 60s and 50s. I was using this first off before rubber and plastic joints really came up back in the 60s. It's still good stuff. Let me show how and where its uses would be on what pipe fittings, etc. Let's go to that now. Now this stuff's uses is very wide indeed, and it's especially useful if you happen to not have a washer or any PTFE tape, which is not as good as this actually, but you haven't got the seal. So you let's say this outside tap, for instance, it's got a thread there. Some of them do come with a washer now. It's very hard to get it lined up exactly when you've got that washer. Best use this, or PTFE tape will get you through, but if you really want belt and braces, this is the stuff. How to use it? Well, just inch a little bit out of it like this. You just pull it and just take enough that you want out of the hemp, okay, and just pull it so you've got like a little stringful here. Chuck that down there, okay. Now in the old days we plaster this with boss white as well, but obviously not these days, not unless you've got a potable one that's usable on mains water, drinking water, but it is another good way of making a good seal. So what do you do with this stuff? Well, basically the same as what you do with PTFE tape. So there's your outside tap, and literally you just wind it into the thread like this. You see that? It's winding into the thread. Wind it in, keep going. And now getting the right amount is an art. It's took me 50 years. No, it's quite easy actually. Do you see it? It's wound in nicely. As I say, a lot of plumbers also used to use boss white around it like that, and it'd help hold it all together and make that joint up as well. So, but I say, a lot of people don't like boss white these days, and as I say, you've got to use the potable water one that is allowable on obviously water works today, especially drinking water. If it's not, then that's okay, but that would seal. You could turn that in. The good thing is when you turn it up to get it upright in the pipe, there's always a little bit more. So if you find you've got to there, you've run out, you could also undo it and then wrap a little bit more around it, and then you could wrap it around again to say it tightened up exactly at the point you wanted it to be upright like that. So that's a good thing with that stuff. It's really useful like that. But obviously you can still do that with PTFE, but it just tends to spiral off. It's not very good. This old-fashioned hemp, which you can still get apparently, is the stuff. Now other uses. Well, what about things like the connector that goes to a ball cock on your toilet system, for instance? Obviously a pipe sometimes like that, or the roof tank valve, and you usually have a little fibre washer on there. Well, once again, you could use a bit of this stuff, squeeze it, prise a little bit off, and put it on there. So we take a little bit off of there, and you can just put as much as you want on, because you can kind of shred it down a bit thin like that, and make it thinner and longer. And once again, we get it lined up with our joint, okay, and put it on, wind it round where the joint would normally be, okay, you can see that, that's where our washer would normally be. It gets you over the problem if your washer is gone or it's broken. Sometimes the seal goes and you'll find the fibre washer's got a split in it and it's leaking because of that, which replaces it. Once again, you could put boss white around there, but as I said before, that's your prerogative, or whatever you want to do. Take it as you. It's a good and a bad point, but that will seal it with no boss white at all, and that's your joint made up, ready to go onto, say, such things like water cisterns and other joints like roof tank ball cocks and things like that. Okay, so that's that one. And lastly, one thing I also want to show you is making up a grommet out of hemp. Back in the old days, we didn't have much in the way of washers. They were plastic and hard, and the rubber ones hadn't really come out properly. They were really rough, terrible quality. So we found that if a joint needed to go into a section of a tank or something, or an old iron barrel fitting that was all rough and pitted inside, a washer wouldn't seal it. Because it'd have all pits and little gouges out inside of here, and if you've got that type of thing or an irregular surface, then it's not going to seal. I'll show you what I mean by taking you down to my water barrel now. So here is my water barrel, and you can see I've put a joint around it because I had a leak here, right there, but on that ridge. Now nothing's going to seal that, a washer or anything like that, or even tightening it right up. It's not going to make that surface flat. So you've got to get something on the inside that's going to be able to bend in and out with that. And obviously a rubber washer, even a plastic washer, whatever type of washer you like, is not going to fill that dent in. It's never going to work. So that's when the grommet come to my aid. And as you can see, there it is down there. There's that joint that's coming through, and I've used, as I say, a grommet to seal and get that to take up the indent in the tank, if you were, and it worked perfectly. It's just a plug, that's all, just to take the place of the hole that was in the tank. So that now leaves us how to make the grommet. Okay, bit of hemp like this again, like I've showed before, pulled off, and the fitting that we want the grommet for. So this is a malline copper tank connector, and it usually goes through a tank or into a metal iron thread, female, if it could be anything. And now obviously you could use just hemp round the thread, or you could use obviously PTFE tape. But if you actually were going to a rough surface like I just showed you down the bottom there, it probably wouldn't hold. It would need something that would fill those holes up, would make a really better seal joint. So back in the old days when it used to go into iron, and the iron would be all rusted and pitted on the back nut, we'd use one of these. And this is fairly simple to do. Okay, get your hemp and get around about the middle of it, there by the looks of it, yeah. And we're just going to turn it over like so, and make a little circle like that. Now that we take down to the thread size of whatever we're going to use it for. So in this instance, it's going to be this thread here. So we're going to take it down to that. Okay, so we've kind of tightened it like so. Okay, take it off. Now just make it a fraction wider with your fingers, because the hemp's going to take up a little bit of room when it goes on the fitting, and start twisting it around. 1/2 done, there it is. Now we just go back and do the rest round the other way and pull it round again like so, in and out, just like crocheting or something. No, it's nothing like that. But this is what we used to do back in the day, very seldom used nowadays, except for things like, say, that obtuse, horrible water barrel that happened to leak right on that point of a crevice to make the tank. Usual weak points, aren't they? You just keep going with your grommet until you get right the way around. I guess you was all wondering what one of these would be. It wasn't as interesting as you thought, was it? But it's something to know. This is what we did back in the 60s. I say very seldom these days, but you can still get hemp if you want it. That's it, it goes the last bit in like that, and you should end up with a ring, okay, like that, and that should fit your fitting like this, so it goes over like so. Okay, and there's your grommet washer on there like so, and that's how you make a grommet, a hemp grommet. Okay, see you for the next video next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.